everyone. Welcome to episode 5 of the English Roast podcast. My name is Aaron.
And hi there, I'm Luna. We're thrilled to have you join us today. Aaron, what's our exciting topic for this episode?
Today, we're diving into something that I believe will help many of our listeners. We're talking about 7 tips on how to speak English fluently without thinking or translating in your mind.
That sounds amazing. I know so many people struggle with that. Speaking fluently without having to think too much can be a real game changer.
And, when I first started learning a second language, I would always find myself translating in my head. It really slowed me down.
Oh, I can totally relate. It's like you want to speak naturally, but your brain just won't let you.
Exactly.
Well, today we have some great tips to overcome that hurdle and make speaking English feel a lot more natural.
Yes, so stick around because we're about to share with you 7 key strategies that can really boost your fluency. And trust us, they are more fun than you think.
We'll be covering everything from practicing regularly to thinking in English, and even some personal stories to show you how these tips have worked for us.
That's right. So, whether you're just starting out or you've been learning English for a while, there's something here for everyone.
Ready to get started? Let's dive in and explore our first tip.
So, Luna, let's dive straight into our first tip. Practice speaking regularly. Personally, I've found that speaking often is the key to becoming fluent. It's like learning to ride a bike. You get better the more you do it.
Absolutely, Aaron. When you practice speaking, you become more comfortable and confident. And confidence is a huge part of fluency. When I first started learning English, I used to talk to myself in English while doing daily tasks like cooking or driving. It felt silly at first, but it really helped.
That's a great point. Speaking regularly also helps you get used to the rhythm and flow of English. Many learners focus too much on grammar and pronunciation and forget that language is also about flow. I remember practicing with friends and even strangers. Once, I struck up a conversation with a tourist in a coffee shop, and it was a real boost to my confidence.
Yes, and don't be afraid of making mistakes. Mistakes are a part of learning. I used to be so afraid of sounding foolish, but then I realized that people are generally kind and often want to help you. Aaron, do you have any funny stories about speaking practice when you were learning?
Oh, definitely. I once asked for a beach in a restaurant instead of a batch of cookies. The waiter was confused, but we both had a good laugh about it. Experiences like these make the journey memorable and less daunting.
That is hilarious, Aaron. Another tip is to find a routine to practice speaking. Whether it's joining an English speaking club, finding a language partner, or even using apps where you can talk to native speakers, consistency is key. When I was learning, I joined a weekly meetup group. It was so helpful to have a set time each week dedicated to speaking English.
I totally agree. And another thing to remember is that quality is better than quantity. It's better to have a good, focused 10-minute conversation than to mumble through an hour-long one. It's all about making sure you're really engaging with the language.
Yes, and make it fun. Talk about topics you love, share your hobbies, or discuss interesting news stories. The more you enjoy it, the more likely you are to keep at it. One of my friends loves cooking, so she joined an English cooking class online. She learned new recipes and practiced English at the same time. Win-win.
That's brilliant. So listeners, remember, speaking regularly is like building muscle. The more you do it, the stronger it gets. Don't stress too much about mistakes. Have fun and make it a part of your daily life.
Exactly. Make it a habit and you'll soon see progress. Trust the process and keep pushing forward.
Now for our next tip, think in English. This is really important, and Luna, I think you have a great way of explaining why.
So, thinking in English helps you stop translating words from your native language. When you translate, it slows down your speaking and confuses you. Thinking directly in English helps everything flow more smoothly and naturally. It's like building a bridge between your thoughts and the words you speak.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about how to start thinking in English. First, try to name things around you in English. For example, as you're getting ready in the morning, you can say in your mind, I am brushing my teeth, or I am making breakfast.
That's such a fun and easy way to start. Another method is to talk to yourself in English. It might seem a bit silly at first, but it's very effective. For instance, if you're planning your day, think through your schedule in English. Okay, first I will go to work. Then I have a meeting at 2 p.m.
And, it doesn't have to be perfect grammar or vocabulary. The goal is to get your brain used to processing information in English. And over time, you'll notice it becomes more natural.
Another great tip is to keep a journal. You can write about your day, your feelings, or even just random thoughts, all in English. It doesn't have to be long or complicated. Just a few sentences every day can make a big difference.
Yes, and let's not forget about fun activities like watching movies or TV shows in English without subtitles. This helps your brain get used to hearing and thinking in English. Try picking a favorite show and watching an episode in English each day.
Lastly, use technology to your advantage. Change the language settings on your phone or computer to English. This way, you're exposed to the language every time you use your devices. Plus, it's a quick and easy way to integrate English into your daily life.
Great advice, Luna. Remember, the goal is to immerse yourself in the language as much as possible. Thinking in English is a powerful step towards speaking it fluently.
Absolutely. It might be challenging at first, but don't give up. The more you practice, the easier it will become. And soon enough, you'll find yourself thinking in English without even realizing it.
Totally agree. So listeners, start small but stay consistent. Train your mind to think in English, and you'll see a big improvement in your fluency. All right, now let's dive into our next tip, expanding your vocabulary. This is a big one for many learners. How do we start?
Great question, Aaron. Expanding your vocabulary is crucial for speaking fluently. One effective way is to use new words daily. It's like muscle memory. The more you use them, the more natural they become.
Right, a fun tip is to pick a word of the day. For example, you can choose a word each morning and try to use it in sentences throughout the day. I remember doing this with the word enthusiastic. By the end of the week, I was enthusiastically using enthusiastic in all my conversations.
That's a great idea. Also, flashcards can be a handy tool. You can make them yourself or use apps like Anki or Quizlet. These apps even have spaced repetition, which helps in retaining new vocabulary longer.
Absolutely. Flashcards saved me when I was learning Spanish. I made it a habit to review them during my commute. By seeing and saying the words repeatedly, they soon became second nature.
Another effective method is to read more in English, books, articles, blogs, anything. While reading, highlight words you don't know and look them up. Then try to use those words in conversations or writing.
Yeah, that works well. I used to highlight words in a novel and then try to use at least one new word from my reading into my daily dialogue. It's interesting to see how context helps with remembering new vocabulary.
That's right. And let's not forget about watching movies or TV shows with subtitles. You get to hear new words in context and see them written out, which can help them stick in your mind. Plus, it's super entertaining.
For sure. And don't be afraid to look up slang or colloquial expressions you hear. Those can be just as important as proper vocabulary for natural conversation.
Oh, and speaking of natural conversation, engaging in online forums or social media with people who speak English can expose you to a wide range of vocabulary used in real-life scenarios.
Totally agree. Whether it's commenting on YouTube videos or participating in Facebook groups, interacting with others is a dynamic way to learn.
Finally, keep a vocabulary journal. Write down new words, meanings, and example sentences. Review it regularly to refresh your memory.
That's an excellent idea. I kept a journal when I was learning French. It really helped me track my progress and see how far I'd come.
So, there you have it. Using new words daily, flashcards, reading, watching content with subtitles, engaging online, and keeping a journal are all excellent ways to expand your vocabulary.
Yes, keep exploring and using new words, folks. It's all about consistency and practice.
Now, let's dive into our next tip. Learn phrases, not just words. This is such a game changer, Aaron.
I remember when I first started learning a new language, I tried to memorize individual words, but it wasn't until I started learning phrases that I felt I could communicate more naturally.
Right. Learning phrases helps you form sentences more quickly and naturally. For example, instead of just learning the word book, you could learn the phrase, I am reading a book. It gives context and shows you how to use the word properly in a sentence.
Exactly. One of my favorite phrases when I was learning was on cloud nine. It means feeling very happy, and it's so much more expressive than just saying happy.
Oh, I love that phrase too. Another good one is a piece of cake, meaning something that's very easy. You wouldn't guess that from just learning the word cake, but the whole phrase gives it a new depth.
Yes, that's a great example. And phrases often include grammatical structures that help you understand the language better. For instance, learning "can I have a blah blah blah" helps you understand how to form polite requests.
And the best part is these phrases can come from different contexts. Think about all those expressions you hear in movies and songs. They stick in your mind because they come with a situation or emotion attached.
Watching movies or shows and noting down common phrases can really help. I personally enjoy jotting down phrases and then trying to use them in conversations.
Speaking of movies, one phrase one picked up from films is break a leg, which means good luck in a really quirky way.
Yes, and there's also hit the nail on the head, which means to say something exactly right. These phrases are fun and make your English sound more natural.
True. So, listeners, start noting down phrases you come across in your daily interactions or through media. Try to use them in sentences and see how they fit into conversations.
Exactly. And don't forget to practice with them. The more you use these phrases, the more natural they'll feel.
So remember, learning phrases, not just words, will definitely make your English more fluent and natural. We hope you start incorporating this tip into your study routine.
Keep practicing those phrases, and you'll see a huge improvement in no time. Let's move on to our next tip. Now, one of the most fun and effective ways to improve your English is to listen to English regularly. Luna, what's your take on this?
Well, listening to English content is a must. It helps you get used to the natural flow of the language, the pronunciation, and the different accents.
Right. And there are so many different types of content you can listen to. For example, I love listening to podcasts when I'm on the go. They cover a wide range of topics, so you can pick something that interests you.
Yes, podcasts are fantastic. I personally enjoy audiobooks. They are a great way to enjoy stories and improve my English at the same time. Plus, they often come with professional narration, which helps with learning the correct pronunciation.
And speaking of pronunciation, watching movies and TV shows in English is also very helpful. You can see how words are used in context and hear how native speakers talk in everyday situations.
Totally. And for those who love music, listening to English songs is another fun option. You can learn new words and phrases and even improve your understanding of slang and idiomatic expressions.
Also, don't forget about YouTube. There are countless channels dedicated to teaching English with hosts who explain everything in an engaging way.
For beginners, I recommend starting with content that's simpler and easier to follow, like this channel. As you get more comfortable, you can move on to more complex materials.
And it's important to make this a daily habit. Even listening for just 10 to 15 minutes a day can make a big difference.
One tip I like to share is to listen actively, not passively. Try to pick out new words and phrases and repeat them to practice your pronunciation.
Yes, active listening is key, and it's also helpful to take notes or even try to summarize what you've just listened to. It reinforces your learning and helps you remember better.
So, listeners, find something you enjoy and make it part of your daily routine. Whether it's a podcast, an audiobook, a movie, or a song, consistent exposure to English will improve your listening skills and speaking fluency.
And remember, the goal is to immerse yourself in the language as much as possible. The more you listen, the more natural English will become for you. All right, everyone, let's dive into our sixth tip for speaking English fluently, practicing with a partner.
Yes, this one is really important. Having someone to practice with can make such a big difference. Aaron, do you remember when we started practicing together?
Oh, absolutely. That was a game changer. I mean, just having someone to talk to, bounce ideas off, and get immediate feedback from was incredibly helpful.
And it doesn't have to be a native speaker, right? Even practicing with someone who is also learning English can be beneficial.
Exactly. The key is to use the language as much as possible. When you practice with someone else, you get a chance to correct each other's mistakes and learn together. Plus, it's way more fun than practicing alone.
One thing we used to do was set a specific time each week for our practice sessions. It helped us stay consistent and made sure we were making progress.
During those sessions, we would sometimes pick a topic to discuss or role-play different scenarios. For example, we'd pretend to order food in a restaurant, or even have a debate about a fun topic. It kept things interesting and practical.
Also, having a partner keeps you motivated. There were days when I felt too tired to practice, but knowing that you were waiting for our session pushed me to keep going.
And it's not just about speaking, a partner can help with listening too. You can listen to each other's pronunciation and help correct errors. It really helps in improving our listening skills as well.
And if your partner is a native speaker, you get the added benefit of learning natural expressions and slang. It's like having a personal teacher.
Yes, but if you don't have a native speaker to practice with, there are plenty of language exchange programs online where you can find language partners from around the world.
Another tip is to record your conversations. Listening back to your practice sessions can be very eye-opening. You can catch mistakes you didn't notice during the conversation and track your progress over time.
And don't forget, the goal is to make mistakes and learn from them. The more you practice, the more fluent you will become. So find a partner, set up regular practice times, and enjoy the learning process.
Absolutely. So if you're serious about improving your English, start looking for a practice partner today. Once you do, you'll notice your speaking skills improve much faster.
That's right, practice makes perfect. And with a partner, it makes the journey much more enjoyable and effective. Now, let's move on to our final tip, being patient and persistent.
Learning a new language is a journey, and it's not going to happen overnight. You need a lot of patience and a never give up attitude.
Exactly. Think of it as planting a tree. You don't see it grow in a day or two, but with consistent care and time, it eventually grows tall and strong. The same goes for learning English.
Yes, and it's important to set realistic goals. Instead of focusing on becoming fluent right away, appreciate the small milestones. Maybe it's being able to order food in English or having a short conversation with a friend. Celebrate those achievements.
One of our listeners once shared a story with us. She moved to an English-speaking country and felt overwhelmed at first, but she made a commitment to learn just one new word every day.
And look at her now. She can hold entire conversations confidently. It took her time, but her persistence paid off.
That's so inspiring. Just remember, it's okay to make mistakes. Each mistake is a chance to learn and improve. Don't be too hard on yourself.
And surround yourself with English. Practice every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. Little by little, you will get there.
Also, find what motivates you. Maybe it's watching a favorite show without subtitles or traveling and using English to explore new places. A motivating goal can make the journey much more enjoyable.
And don't forget to be kind to yourself. Some days you might feel stuck, but remember that every bit of effort counts toward your progress.
Absolutely. The key is to keep going no matter what. Consistency is more important than speed. Your effort compounds over time, leading you closer and closer to fluency.
So if you've been feeling down about your progress, take a deep breath and remind yourself of why you started. Be patient, stay persistent, and celebrate every little victory along the way.
Couldn't have said it better, Luna. To all our listeners out there, keep practicing, stay patient, and trust the process.
Keep up the great work, and remember, every step you take brings you closer to speaking English fluently.
Wow, what a great discussion, Luna. Let's quickly recap the 7 tips to speak English fluently without thinking or translating in your mind.
Absolutely, Aaron. First, we talked about the importance of practicing speaking regularly. Remember, practice makes perfect.
Then we explored the idea of thinking in English. It's a game changer because it helps you get used to the language in a natural way.
Expanding your vocabulary was our third tip. The more words you know, the easier it is to express yourself. Don't forget to use those flashcards.
Fourth, we emphasized learning phrases, not just individual words. Phrases help you create natural sentences and sound more like a native speaker.
Next, we discussed listening to English regularly. Whether it's podcasts, audiobooks, or movies, consistent exposure is key.
And don't underestimate the power of practicing with a partner. Feedback and motivation keep you on track, which was our 6th tip.
Finally, we reminded you to be patient and persistent. Learning a language is a marathon, not a sprint.
We hope you find these tips useful in your journey to becoming fluent in English. Remember, consistency is key, so keep at it.
Thanks for tuning in to episode 5 of the English Roast podcast. We're so glad you joined us today.
Until next time, keep practicing and enjoy your English learning adventure. Bye, everyone.